Today, I'm going to share with you three quick tips that are going to help you look, feel, and sound more confident in English. Now, what's unique about the tips for today is that they're not English specific. So by the time you follow me, you're probably at upper intermediate to advanced level. And while I do have lots of resources for advanced, especially C2 level vocabulary and grammar, today's tips are about what you can do that are not English related that will immediately make you, for all intents and purposes, it'll make you look more fluent. It'll make you look more natural, regardless of your English level. And I get excited because this is what really matters at this level. Once you're at leadership or in a professional capacity, it goes beyond the academic needs of English. When you're studying English, it's all about, okay, I want to go from beginner to intermediate, or I want to take the placement test and I want to take the level test. But when you're in the real world, nobody cares about your level or necessarily your grammar mistakes. It's about your delivery. It's about being competitive. It's about being persuasive. So that's why I love this kind of fluency work. And speaking of fluency work, let's take a look over here. Make sure you download my free audio training at tanniasuarez.com lead. It's a really great audio training that you can listen to on the go, and it's about the three essentials of American leadership communication. This will help you feel more comfortable in communicating in a way that is compatible with the culture that you're in. Now, the first tip about looking more confident, very literally, it's about looking where you look. I find that for non native speakers, because you're always looking for the best word, at this point, you've grown out of the phase of looking for the right word. Now you're trying to look for the best word. You're in an environment where it's competitive. You're in board meetings, you're seeing other people communicate so eloquently and so fluently, and part of you maybe gets a little triggered, you might get jealous, you might get insecure, and so you're trying to figure out what's a fancier way of saying what you want to say. And what happens is as you're mentally looking for the words, your eyes are also looking. It's not a horrible thing, but I'll tell you why you need to improve this. I would say fix it, but I like to work on improving because you're not broken. You just could be better. The reason is it doesn't translate well. So while your eyes are looking around for the right words, you know, and I know, and this is what I do with my clients in my leadership program, we know that you're looking for the English. Your audience, however, is going to perceive that as you looking for the expertise or the knowledge. So what that's going to do is it's going to cause your audience to trust you less. They're going to think maybe you don't know as much as you should for that position. And when you're in a professional capacity, when you're in a leadership position or trying to get promoted, you need to build that executive presence and you need to build that trust in your expertise. So if someone's asking you something or you're about to contribute in a meeting and you're looking around thinking like, what is that? What's that word I used the other day? In your mind, you're thinking like, oh, does the verb come first? What's a better way I could say this? They're listening to that on mute. So what they're thinking is, does this woman know what she's talking about? Does this guy how did he become the CEO? You don't want that kind of doubt. So something you can do is train yourself because all of this, they're simple, but they're not easy because it does require training. You need to train yourself to make natural eye contact. So you really need to train yourself. And if you come from a culture where eye contact is not the norm, this is going to take extra training because in American culture, we love eye contact. That's how we connect. That's how we establish trust and confidence. So depending on your cultural background, this might require even more effort. So you want to make natural eye contact. And another tip that's going to really help you is you want to relax your forehead, this area, because when you're thinking, let me make myself bigger. When you're thinking, whenever I coach, I always watch my clients because there's this the anxiety and the thought process manifest into really tense facial expression. And that's going to, again, add to the perception that you're maybe not as confident about your expertise when really you're just probably thinking about sentence structure. So you want to relax your forehead and relax your shoulders. As a non native speaker, the amount of tension that you carry in your shoulders is unbelievable. This is probably why you feel back pain, neck pain, and get headaches because you're speaking English all day long at work. And if you're not mindful of the physicality of that, it can lead to a connection, a subconscious connection that English equals tension. So check in with your shoulders frequently. You're going to look more confident. And this is actually going to feed into you also feeling more confident. So you want to make natural eye contact. Now, a really great tip when you have virtual meetings is you want to put your notes under the camera. If you're in a Zoom or a meetup or whatever, you want to put the visual, what you're looking at, under the computer camera. Because and I'll find this myself, I have to remind myself, especially when you have a meeting with several people, I try to move whoever the speaker is or put it in speaker mode because otherwise it's going to look like you're doing this the whole meeting. And that, again, feeds into the unnatural eye contact. Even though technically you're looking at them, it doesn't look like it. So, this is something I've done for myself because everything I do is virtual. It's what I help my clients with. You want to train your eyes to be on the camera more often. And it's going to feel a little weird because if the person speaking is in the Zoom square over here, you want to look at them somewhat, but you also want to keep bringing your eyes up to the camera. If you're in the leadership position, this is going to make you look like you're very much involved, like you're very much paying attention. That's going to elevate that respect, that virtual executive presence. All right. Relax your shoulders. Okay, so the next one is about sounding more confident. And so the tip here is to not use filler words too much. And those are the ums and the ahs. You also want to catch yourself as a non native speaker. The reason your training is even more unique than when a native speaker takes leadership communication courses is because you might still be using filler words from your native language. So, for example, if you're a Spanish speaker, you might, when you're using filler sounds, you might say bueno, um, instead of So you first have to train yourself. You have to learn the filler words so you can use them somewhat because using filler words is natural. It's using them excessively that takes away from the confidence. So you first need to realize what are the filler words you're using in your native language? What are the filler words that Americans use, which are mostly and And then are you using them too much? And all right, but this is why it's worth investing the time to train yourself. Okay. So now that you know that the American filler words are and the main point in your conversations where it's impacting your confidence and your perception of being confident is at the beginning. So when you're responding, when you're starting to speak, train that first. And eventually you can start taking them out of other parts of your speech, but it's the beginning. And so that's what you want to really focus on. So when you're about to speak, instead of using a filler word, I want you to breathe. So take a breath. And we can try something simple, right? Like even if it's just how are you today? I'm good. I'm good. It's that nervous energy and when you're in a leadership position, when you're in a professional setting, you want to be calm and confident. So take a breath. It doesn't have to be inhale, exhale. You're just going to inhale. Well, instead of use well at the beginning especially, and that's just going it's going to give you the same time that you want to calm down, but it's going to sound a lot more natural and confident. So notice a difference if I don't apply these tips and if I do. Again, simple, how are you today? I'm good, thanks. How are you? Or how are you today? Well, it's a pretty good day, thanks. How's yours going? So even by stumbling a little bit, already there's so much more confidence and personality. So make sure you breathe before you speak. Usually that will take the place of the filler word you were going to use, but if you still need a little more time, I recommend using well at the beginning. It's going to have a great impact on you sounding and looking more confident. And you'll also feel more confident because when you're breathing, your anxiety decreases because your heart rate stabilizes. And so then you start feeling more confident when you're conversing. Your brain is able to be more creative and access the English that you want because you're having more oxygen and you're creating an environment where you feel safer. All right. The next one we want to do here, our last tip for today is don't answer immediately. So, this is what we were practicing before. You want to take a breath. If you need a filler word, you want to use well. Now, the reason I have this here is because this is so important. I find that non native speakers, the reason you rush into answering is there's an insecurity, maybe from the beginning of your English journey, that you feel or you're trying to prove yourself. The faster you answer, the more fluent they think you are, the more they'll trust that your English is good enough. But when you're at this level of English, once you hit intermediate to advanced, and you're using English professionally, whether you're in a leadership position or in another professional position, answering immediately leads to nervous energy. Also, you're not taking what that tells me as the coach in all this. That tells me that you probably spent the time when you should have been actively listening, you spent it rehearsing or planning what you want to say. This is horrible. This is where you fall into the trap of, I feel like I'm still translating from my native language into English, or I feel like I can't like listen and think of it's too much trying to think of the right structure. So this is one of the hardest things to train yourself to do because it's undoing a habit you've had probably for years, if not decades. You want to it in order to not answer immediately, it starts with when the other person's speaking, when their lips are moving, your lungs are working. So you're breathing. Because you're breathing more, you're actively listening. Just listen to them. Just take in their words, take in their message, take in their story. You need to start trusting yourself at this level. Trust yourself that you can come up with the right answer. And I'm telling you, this is one of the hardest things I'm going to ask you to do. But stop planning in your head what you want to say next while you should be listening. Trust that you have enough English, that now you have the breathing technique, the filler technique to take your time and answer well. It's so hard. I know it's going to feel like, no, but if I plan it, my response can be better. We're not going for better. We're going for awesome. And awesome does not mean perfect C2 level structure. I say this in almost every video I've ever made. C2 level is not natural American conversational English. That is really great for the Cambridge English exam. For conversational American English, the personality is what's going to matter. How you deliver is going to matter. How you connect. If you're trying to get a promotion at work, if you're already at the executive level, but you're trying to create a stronger network, personality is what gets promotions. So this is where I really want you to tap into who you are, not what you're saying. So that being said, okay, so now people are talking, lips are moving, your lungs are working, you're calming down, you're listening actively. When it's your turn to respond, you're breathing and then you're responding. Whether it's a simple question like, how was your day? Or it could be a more complex question like, what do you think about next quarter's projections? The tip here is you're going to take your time with the inhale. And if you need more time, instead of, I want to give you the comfort of knowing that you have a tool that you're using so that you can actually let go and listen actively. When you're listening actively, I want you to tell yourself, if I need more time or if I need more information, I can ask. Especially in a leadership position, I respect leaders who ask follow-up questions and really get the information that they need and make it a team effort before giving their opinion or giving their solution. So it also works from a leadership standpoint. So if you need more time or if you need more words or information, ask follow-up questions. So even at the projection, like, what do you think about next quarter's projections? Well, I have some thoughts on it, but I'm curious what you think. Tell me what you think will be the blah, blah, blah. So you can get more feedback from your team. A lot of times this is a great technique as well. When there's a problem, you want to, and you can practice, you can have like your list of go-to questions because in your work context, you're going to have a lot of the same topics come up in meetings. You can prepare your 3 to 5 standard follow-up questions and practice them out loud so that when you need them, you feel comfortable. But when being asked for a solution, I always recommend from a leadership standpoint, practice the follow-up questions to see, ask them what they've done, what they think, because you're also teaching critical thinking skills. You're training your team, understand how they process issues. And if that is not in alignment with how you or your company want them to process things, you start fixing that and you start teaching them how to think through problems. It can feel a little bit annoying because sometimes you think, I have the solution, I'm just going to give it to them. But this is what happens when I work with managers and they're like, oh, my team is too codependent on me. I'm like, yeah, because when they have issues, you don't teach them how to solve it. You tell them or you solve it for them. So by incorporating this technique of asking follow-up questions, it also helps you be a better leader. You understand how, so you practice questions like, tell me what your thoughts on what do you think how we should move forward? What has the team done up to now? Why didn't that work? What do you think could work? So then you understand where the team is and how they do things. And then you can constructively, not critically, but constructively say, okay, I see why you tried that solution. When we have this kind of issue, I want you to try X first. And this is going to help you pay attention to this, this, and this. So however you want them to do it, you're going to show them how to think critically, show them how to follow a process that is more in alignment with how you want them to solve the issue, and then also contribute and give them the solution that they need in the moment. So this is where all of these confidence techniques also make you a better communicator and a better leader. All right, thank you so much for joining me for today's live lunch and learn. If you're interested in more in-depth one-on-one coaching, I have a wonderful leadership communication program where we're going to techniques like these, as well as increasing our executive presence virtually as well as in person, and really getting into how Americans communicate and how you can be more compatible for your clients, for your team, for your colleagues. Thank you so much. And if you would like to take a look at my other business English resources, I have a podcast, a blog, I have online courses. Check them out at tanyasuarez.com.